Hello, my name is Christina Dixon from the Environmental Investigation Agency. We are part of a coalition of non-profit experts who have provided insight and support for the EIA and expert group processes since plastic pollution has gained prominence on the international agenda. Plastic pollution has been on the agenda since the first EIA in 2014. The expert group, created to consider the known extent of the problem and make recommendations for response options to the Environment Assembly, has now well documented the known extent of the problem and the full impacts of plastic and plastic pollution across the life cycle, including the health, environmental, and economic impacts of plastic production, use, disposal, waste, and end of life as litter, both on land and at sea. We now know what there is to know about the problem, and advisors to this expert group have clearly articulated what our future research agenda should be. As we've considered, collectively and bilaterally, the best response options to recommend back to EIA, political momentum for a new global agreement addressing the full life cycle of plastics has been growing. This is clear from the ever-increasing assemblage of international agreements, declarations, initiatives, and conventions that have solidified and prioritized measures to achieve these ambitions, including the Nordic Ministerial Declaration, the CARICOM St. John's Declaration, the AMCEN Durban Declaration, and the EU Circular Economy Action Plan. Several participants have even proposed possible structures of such a governance solution. Norway and Sweden have each offered potential structures, along with several expert NGOs, including the organizations in our coalition, represented by CIEL, EIA, CORE, and Massey University. These proposals, made in 2018 or 2019, have been discussed and further enhanced by the ongoing work and inputs to the expert group, and will continue to be improved through our future virtual engagements and meetings. We now offer up an update to our proposed governance structure, which has been refined and enriched by insights and recommendations from the members of this expert group. This is a table of the overall structure, also included in an accompanying written submission. The proposed structure has 4 core pillars, which we'll go through in turn in later slides. These pillars are monitoring and reporting, plastic pollution prevention, coordination, and technical and financial support. The first pillar is monitoring and reporting, an essential and critical element in any multilateral environmental agreement. This pillar would include standards to harmonize data, report on national actions, and to provide periodic assessments from countries. But the 2 key provisions of it are environmental monitoring on the presence of plastic pollution and data reporting on circular economy and leakage, focused on a bottom-up approach tracking national progress towards a circular economy and the reduction of leakage. The overarching objectives of the Convention on Plastic Pollution are to eliminate the long-term discharges of plastic into all compartments of the environment, that being land, water, and air, and to achieve a safe circular economy for plastics, one that is just and safeguards the climate system. Therefore, the second pillar is focused on preventing plastic pollution before it becomes a hazard. At its heart will be global objectives for prevention and reduction, and national action plans to meet those objectives. These national action plans will be informed and supplemented by initiatives to address specific issues related to microplastics and to ensure standardization across the plastic value chain. Of course, A series of control measures on virgin plastic production will also be a key driver to prevent pollution and effectively turn off the tap of plastic flowing through the economy and into the environment. Finally, a mechanism for addressing cleanups and remedy for plastic pollution already in the environment will need to be negotiated to ensure impacted communities are made whole again. Pillar 3 is all about coordination. Coordination with existing international and regional instruments should be, of course, central to the governance of a new Convention on Plastic Pollution. This will ensure effective cooperation and coherence, while fully recognizing that these are separate bodies with their own mandates and competencies. The primary areas and instruments for coordination on plastic pollution will be sea-based sources, including fishing gear, plastic waste trade, chemicals and additives, biodiversity, climate change, agriculture, and of course, knowledge exchange with the regional seas conventions and programs. And finally, the fourth and vital pillar to this proposed structure for governance on plastic pollution will be technical and financial support to policymakers and developing countries for implementation of the measures just discussed. In addition to providing for a secretariat, the Convention will need to provide for panels on scientific assessment to reinforce the science policy interface in documenting and solving the problem, and socio-economic assessment to understand the economic impacts on different groups, especially workers, families, households and genders, indigenous peoples and others. The Convention would also need to provide for implementing and bilateral agencies, financial resources for distribution to developing countries, and a committee to ensure implementation and compliance. This brings us to the end of this brief overview. If you have follow-up questions or concerns, please be sure to reach out to David Azule from the CIEL team or Tim Grabiel from the EIA team, whose contact information is included here.